idiocy took place in the education classrooms and in the lunch hall when we weren't actually on set. I think we were pretty well behaved students, I think.
With Rise, you were unrecognizable for so long. Was the dialect work? How much dialect work did you do with the current film?
Yeah, quite a bit. It's not something that I take on lightly. You know, I think it's very easy to sort of imitate an accent, but it's very hard to actually do it and not think about it and just just talk and let it come to you. So yeah, I did take it very seriously, and many an hour back at home and in America, and yeah, it's not something that I ever think that a bit like acting, you don't suddenly just get it and you've got it. You have to keep working on it constantly, and yeah, I see someone as regular as I can, and ideally I'd like to have someone. It was nice on this film, Goes to the Pacific, the two other gentlemen that were with me were both American, and one of them in fact was from the town that my character was from. So all I had to do was imitate his accent. And every time I did slip up, he would say, "Well, you went a bit southern there," or this or that. So it's nice to have that. Yeah, but it's not something that I do lightly, or I definitely it's something that I consider it needs a lot of work to be comfortable with. Thanks, mate.
We have time for a few more.
Sure.
So, yes.
Is there any particular Draco ship you enjoy the most, like Hermione or?
I won't lie, the whole thing kind of freaks me out. I mean, over the years I've got more used to it, and actually I'm thrilled that people have felt inspired enough by the books to want to create their own. Just some of their imaginations are a little wacky at times.
Inspired's a good euphemism.
Well, yeah. I have a thing. I don't know a thing, but I enjoy the idea of Drapple, which took me years to figure out what it was. But it's Draco and an apple. It took me even further to realise why, because in the sixth film he carries apples. I don't even know. It's probably the oddest pairing and one that's given me the most. No, you got it.
Say what?
There's a girl over here who wants to ask, a little girl.
Okay,
Hey.
what's up?
What's your favorite magical item in the book?
Wow. Can I ask you the same? Do you have one? Is there one that you would like to be? What is it?
Either a broom or a wand.
Well, you kind of just stole my answer. What else can I go for? I've always, much like yourself, my lovely, I've always wanted a broomstick. It would be awesome, wouldn't it, just to have your own, your own broomstick. Very eco-friendly. Yeah, and it would just be very awesome. I think a wand obviously ultimately is more useful, but I fear I'd get myself into more trouble than as well. Stick to the ninjas.
Good question. All right. I'm just going to pick people who's in. Yes, in the back. The sunglasses.
How did you feel about the way they made Draco look at the end of the last film? Because we thought that they made him look worse than any of the other characters. Like he looked about 80.
Oh, right. I was
He
thinking
looked about
even in the
2
courtyard.
years
I was like,
old.
what are you talking about? Yeah. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll just say that I was the least protesting client of the ones who were going to get aged. Oddly enough, the women were less keen to be aged differently than I was. I was like, give me the fat suit. Give me also, the guys who do it, they've been reading this. They knew it was coming for years, so they'd spent years compiling all this. They took pictures of my family, of my brothers, of my dad, to try and get a real grasp of where I was heading. I built various pieces. There was very little of my actual face was being shown there. They had all sorts of eye pieces and a fake forehead and a wig. I loved it. I thought it was pretty kick-ass. But I agree with you that they did look 80. So when you look at Lucius, and you think how good he looked into his. I thought I was set with Jason and Dad. Apparently not. But yeah, thanks for noticing.
What's your take on the interpretation of Draco Malfoy by a Harry Potter musical?
Young Laura?
Oh, yeah.
Lauren, yeah. I think she should have got the original part and I should have been doing the musical.
Rolling on the floor. all
Yeah,
the
she's
time.
good at that. Yeah. It's, again, you know, it took me a couple of years to see that, but I know it's amazing. I actually met a few of those kids who have done it, and it's incredible that something it must have started off as a pretty wacky idea, and now look at it. Right now, look at what they've managed to achieve, and it's another great byproduct of kids or people that have been inspired from the films or the books, and they wanted to do their own spin, shall we say. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I definitely enjoyed it.
Just hands down if you've already had a question. We've had so many questions. Okay, so yes.
After acting as Draco Malfoy for so long, was it weird acting in other movies?
A little bit, yeah. It was a bit terrifying, to be honest with you. You get very used to playing the same thing. It becomes very easy. You know, the not easy as in you don't think about it, but the director ends up asking you what you think your character would do because they know you know Draco better than anyone. So yeah, it was a bit weird going to a new film set. We had the luxury of time on Harry Potter. You were lucky enough to do 5, 6, 7 or 8 takes and spend hours rehearsing sometimes if they needed to. So it was weird to go on to another film where all of a sudden they had no rehearsal time, 2 weeks to shoot it, you're in and you're out, and you really have to commit to your decisions, because if you think of something a week later that you should have done, you really sort of kick yourself and think, oh God, I could have done so much better. So yeah, I've learned a lot in those 3 periods, but ultimately it's scary and fun to take on new roles.
Middle aisle, black shirt, red print.
Well, earlier last year, I saw one of your late night shows where you were reading little flashcards in an American accent.
Right.
And I thought you did it really well.
Sup baby wanna smush.
Exactly.
I remember.
Could you perhaps say a few new lines?
Absolutely not. Sorry, that was as good as my recollection of that was going to be. They threw that on me completely. They told me it was going to be British phrases, and I was going to have to do like a ridiculous Sherlock Holmes posh accent, and instead they threw the Jersey Shore. I was, again, petrified. That's putting it kindly. I'm glad I got away with it. It seems you remember this. That must be something. So I appreciate your request.
You did it really well.
Thank you, Steve.
Let's see. And lady blue, long sleeve, yeah.
Did you keep any of the props from any of the movies that you used?
They were very tight with that. They started doing random security checks in the last 3 or 4 films because they knew how valuable the props would be. Yeah, the short answer is no. The long answer is yeah. No, they gave me a ring. There was they had 6 or 7 copies of Malfoy's silver Slytherin ring, which he got on the 3rd film. So I was lucky enough to keep that. I've got a tie, one of the original Slytherin ties. That's about it. It's quite sad, isn't it? They kept, obviously there's only one wand, so that's actually in the Leavesden studio tour. We were very tempted as a joke one day to gag and handcuff Daniel, Harry, and stick him in the boot of the trunk of our car as we were driving out through security. Just we never actually got around to that. But I just remember the idea of doing it.
Here.
How do you feel about action figures and your likeness being used on things like action figures and statues and now Legos? What's your take on you out there in the world?
That's one of the big kind of things that shows you like, wow, this is really bigger than you ever expected. When you're in it, you really don't see what's going on around you. You're almost in a bubble where no one says, oh my God, this is incredible, we're doing this today. Because we're all just sort of doing it. So seeing the Lego was definitely a childhood thing, like big tick. Action figure was an even bigger tick. And the theme park, I was like, oh my God, kill me now, I'm good. Which was great, and I was very, very sweetly given a set of the Harry Potter stamps earlier, which I'll cherish. I never realized, my face is on a US postal stamp, which again I think is It is really cool. It's not something that I ever. It's not some, these things aren't things that you ever like hope for or are aiming for, but if they're a byproduct of the success of what you've done, then I'm very grateful that they're here. And annoyingly, I don't collect it. I haven't got a whole. I feel like I should be one of the. Who's the guy from Kiss?
Gene Simmons.
He has the room, which is just absolutely packed with like his Kiss coffins. And yeah. Like, I would love to have a whole Slytherin Draco shrine. So one day I'm going to come to these things, and the lovely props that you bring up for me to sign, I'm going to just start offering you money for it. So yeah, it's something that I do cherish, and I think it's really cool that they're not dying. You know, they're building one in LA now. They're building one in Japan. So as far as I'm concerned, the Harry Potter flame will burn pretty strong for the next 10 years or so.
Please go ahead.
2 questions. Do you have a favorite spell that you used in any of the films? And did you ever sustain any injuries while filming?
Expelliarmus was always the one that we kind of messed around with when we were offset, just messing around. So what was the second part? Did I get injured?
Did you ever sustain any injuries while filming?
Never really. There was a scene where we were rehearsing once with in the third film where Hermione slaps Draco. We were rehearsing that once with Emma, and I was like, let's rehearse it, thinking that there was going to be a movie slap, and I was going to sort of pretend and whack my leg as she did it, and she just whacked me. That was about as painful as it got for me, I think. Yeah, that's right.
Let's start from
Yep. Just wondering, to date, what has been one of your more bizarre fan interactions?
Every year. My mind tries to forget them. No, I'm kidding. It's all bizarre, I suppose, in its own way. The whole thing about being recognized. The oddest thing is I feel like I've grown up with lots of people, which I never used to feel, but I've been doing a few of these shows. You meet lots of people similar age to myself who have been watching you since they were 9, 10 years old, and even though you don't know them, you feel like the way they're looking at you, like you must know them because we're like old friends, it seems. So I find that bizarre every time. We went to Japan a couple of years ago. Needless to say, they do things a little bit differently over there. They were incredibly enthusiastic, and yet incredibly respectful of your space. So they sort of ran up to you in a sort of big group of 100 and then did a little circle. When you walk, the circle just moves around. They're too respectful to ask for pictures, or they just literally want to just stand a meter away and sort of giggle and smile. And they give lots of great gifts, bizarre gifts, silver spoons and various good luck, fortune things, not just from Japan but from around the world. So those are always pretty bizarre to get hold of.
It's funny because stereotypically Japanese folk are always, they depict them taking pictures.
Sure.
Maybe that's traveling, but they didn't really approach the space with photographs.
This is bizarre. There were loads. I mean, very, very. I was very grateful. There were hundreds of people at the airport. And I thought, wow, this is going to be a bit of trouble. But they were they just wanted to get close. Which I kept sort of reaching out as if to say, do you want something? They're like, no. I didn't know what it was. It was highly enjoyable.
Great. All right. It's back.
Maybe it's my imagination, but in the Chamber of Secrets, Diagon Alley, it seems like everyone's like a year older and a foot taller than the next scene. Did you guys shoot that like at a sequence, or was it my imagination?
I hate to.
You look like a foot taller, and then everyone like a foot shorter all of a sudden.
Just my character?
No, just all 3 of the kids. It seems like everyone ages.
I'd say not. I mean, I can't imagine they would. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's your imagination. I'm not sure. I haven't noticed that. I know there is those horrible clips on YouTube where you can see all 500 mistakes of the film in one 2-minute clip. It seems. It's mad. Some of the errors are like, how did they not notice that? But I haven't noticed that one. I'll look out for it.
Right. Sis.
I'm just wondering what your favorite British football team is.
I get in trouble every time this question gets asked. Because unlike every other Brit, it seems, I'm not mad on soccer. I support England if they're playing, but I don't have a team. My girlfriend's team are die-hard Arsenal fans, so I'm a temporary gooner, I guess, for them. But all my best friends support Manchester United, so I'm torn between the Reds. Alright, cheers.
I was wondering if you had any memories of making Anna and the King?
Yes, vividly, yes. Malaysia for 6 months when I was 10 years old or something like that. So yeah, I remember that. That was a long old slog. But yeah, it was. I'm trying to think what my memories were of that. The first one, I was the only sort of Western child in the whole production, so it was kind of a lonely place for a kid to be, I think. But looking back at it, it was an amazing experience. At that age, I don't think you really appreciate anything other than a Happy Meal from McDonald's or something like that. I was more excited about the Happy Meal than I was working with Jodie Foster. I'd never even seen, my mum refused to let me watch Silence of the Lambs as a 10-year-old. Well, I told me it was great at the time. I'm a bit grateful probably now, yeah. But yeah, it was great, and I feel it's one of those things as well. As time goes on, the more I look back and think, those are really good times. Me and my mum for 6 months in Malaysia.
Listen back.
Sort of Quidditch and being on a broomstick. What was your most challenging scene to film, or challenging emotional moment for your film?
I mean, there was some weird emotional stuff in the Sick film with the attempted assassination of old Dumbledore. I think when you said tough and challenging, I instantly thought of the 7th film when they get stuck in the room of requirement and the whole place is going up in flames. Young Harry saves the day. That was shot over months and months and months. It was very hard to get the right real fire as well as CGI fire. I don't know if you remember, but there was a table we were standing on at the top of all this rubble, like waving, and then the table just goes, and we sort of turn around and cling on to the... I don't think they even showed it in the film. It missed the cut, but that was incredibly scary at the time. We were only maybe 20 feet up, but we knew the table was going to drop. So we're standing there waiting, and they didn't give you a 3, 2, 1, and then they snapped 2 of the legs out, and the whole thing kind of comes underneath your feet, which, even though we were wired, nothing was going to go wrong with us. It sounds like I'm a real pussy now. It was the knowledge that the table was going to kick you that was pretty terrifying at the time. And yeah, we made the most of it as complaining actors do, I suppose.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yep.
Okay. I was just wondering, during production, at what point were you able to see the visual effects implemented in each scene?
Like none at all. That shot that you just mentioned there in the 6th film, I think it is, where they have a whole sweeping across Hogwarts. None of that was real. In fact, I don't even remember myself doing that shot about standing by a window. They have, the director, and then they have 3 or 4 bodies running around him who were the visual effects bots, and they knew exactly. They were pointing lasers and putting red lights up and doing all sorts of wizardry, to make these elaborate shots where they can seamlessly. I forget which film it is as well. There's one where you can see from the outside, and the camera just literally goes straight through the window, and then you see it inside. And of course, it's not possible. So how do they do it? And it's these clever guys behind the computers that could do it. Speaking about the room of requirements scene with the fire, there was no real fire. They had tiny little flamethrowers to have the light.
Yeah.
Fire,
so when you go to see when you go to the premiere, you're all of a sudden blown away by.
Well, yeah, the second film when even the first film actually, the graphics weren't very good then, but even in the second film when we did months of room work and stuff, you're not moving. You're literally standing still with a fan in your face. So it not only is it painful, it's quite boring really. And they sort of look right, look left. You don't know what's going on. They know exactly what they need, and then they just sort of cut you out. So when I watched Chamber of Secrets, I was like, oh my god, is that me? Like, when did I do all this? They're obviously geniuses at doing that kind of stuff. That was the biggest surprise when I thought, wow, how on earth have they managed to create this elaborate scene out of a room no bigger than this, with it wrapped in blue paint, and me sitting on a pole in the middle of it. Amazing. What they can do.
Yes, sir.
One of the remarkable things about the Potter films I've always thought is that if you look at the cast over the 8 years, it's like a British Actors Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Could you appreciate as a kid that you're getting this master class every day?
Not at all. Especially me. I was rather nonchalant as a child. I didn't really. I did care, but I didn't actively seek out. In fact, I'm pretty sure I introduced myself twice to Gary Oldman, thinking he was a visitor taking a tour. I was explaining to him what we're doing. This is Harry Potter, this is what we're doing, and eventually someone told me, that's Gary Oldman, who I still didn't know who that was. Being a child, I just thought, oh, okay. And then someone started explaining to me. Alan Rickman was the only one that I had. I have respect for them all, but Alan Rickman was the only one that I knew from Robin Hood. Prince of Thieves, yeah, that was a big film when I was a kid, so I was scared of him from day one. But yeah, ironically, I always found this is quite ironic that we were supposed to be young wizards learning magic in a school of wizardry, being taught by the best teachers in the world, and in fact we were young, completely clueless, talentless actors being taught by the best in the business. So yeah, I feel like I have a lot to thank. We all have a lot to thank the senior years for teaching us, because they never really took us under our wing, but I think through their example they taught us a lot. So thanks. All
right, Hogwarts magic is certainly formidable, but you don't want to mess with the Force. And
I don't want to mess with that. No.
All right. Oh, that's 5. It's about 5 of them. All right. So 5 minutes starts right. Thank you, Tom, very much.
I was going to ask when I realized how big of a mess you get yourself into when you realize right. That's what
It's a constant. I feel every day I have a moment like that.
The only thing I remember about the only thing I remember was that